Welcome to Meeple, uniting players around the world. A 30-minute exploration of PJ and Gareth's board game experiences from across both sides of the Atlantic. Each episode they share their thoughts and opinions on the world of board games, including their favourite themes, games, hot topics, and much, much more.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 88. Preview and playtesting. One of our favorite topics today, so we're going to talk about. So, as always, I remain PJ.
And I am still Gareth. Episode 88.
I know.
And we're talking playtesting, something that is dear to your heart.
I love playtesting, man.
You do. And we'll get into that because I don't playtest so much. I'm really picky. And you playtest anything.
Yeah.
You're easy.
I got to tell you, that's partially Katie's influence too. So let's be fair. She enjoys a good playtesting. So it's another thing that we do together.
Yeah. So I think over my board gaming life, like we have playtested. I guess playtesting means you are trying a game that's not yet finished.
Right.
Sometimes it's a scrap of paper and it's an idea. Other times it's nearly the finished article. And
I've seen a lot of those.
The designer or publisher wants some feedback.
Yeah.
So certainly at the UK Games Expo, I'm going to call it the playtest zone. It's probably got a better name than that.
Right.
And I think you've said before that Gen Con, is it in particular? Is called.
You
do a whole day, don't you? Don't you?
No. So
how long
all 4 days of Gen Con, from like 8 a.m. to midnight, is the first exposure playtest hall.
And how long would you spend in there versus the rest of? Do you do like?
So what you do is you sign up in advance for 2-hour blocks, right? And then you and I were talking about this before recording. So if this is interesting, I guess this is where we're going to start.
Yeah.
Right? So when you go, so you sign up in advance, which is perfect because Gen Con's coming up soon. So you would sign up for whatever time you want, and you can sign up for as many as you want, right? We like to sign up for the 8 a.m. slot. That way, we're in the playtest hall, we're occupied, we're getting to see a game in some form of development. When we get out at 10 a.m., the vendor hall opens, and then we can just walk right into the vendor hall instead of waiting outside. Yeah. Now,
let's go and use our time productively.
We have scheduled 2 or 3 in a day, right? So we've done that. But what's really cool, so you sign up in advance and then you stand in line and you draw a number, right? And they break it up into 2 categories. One is tabletop board games. The other one is tabletop role-playing games. I have never playtested a role-playing game. I don't know what that looks like, but they do it. And I have to say, kudos to First Exposure, because some of the designers they have specific social aggregate requirements of their playtesters, and they're upfront about that. Meaning, what does that mean, PJ?
Yeah. What does that mean, PJ?
Thank you, Gareth. That's a good question. They want only women, or they want only children under the age of 16, or they only want players who are transgender, or they only want players who are of some sort of social aggregate.
And is that before you draw your lottery ticket?
Before you draw. So you get your number right away.
Right, yeah, okay.
But then on the table, there's a bunch of descriptions of games, and those descriptions include that.
Right, okay. But there's no mention of, like, let's say I don't like space games.
Mm-hmm.
And then I end up playing a space game. Would my unconscious bias of not liking space games be useful to a designer? Or
Yes, it would. It would, yes, absolutely. Totally would.
Even though I'm having a rubbish time because I hate space games, I need to go in with a different mindset then, I think is what you're saying.
Yes. If I design a space game a space themed game and you don't like space themes, but you might love tile placement, or you might like deck building or whatever, you still have something to contribute to me to help me in my design process, right? Because you
I
could
think
be
that's the
upfront.
difference is that if I'm going to go and play games, I go and find games like in the vendor hall, or I'm going to go into open gaming.
Yep.
But if I'm going to do playtesting, I think what you're saying is I have to have a different mindset, which is I'm going to help and test games, which may or may not be games I'd normally choose, but it's more feeding back to the designer on the experience.
Yeah, so the descriptions are they're really vague, but they're just descriptive enough that you will know
it's a space game.
Yeah, because what'll happen is it won't have the title of the game, because the game may not have a title yet, right?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
That happens too. But you might have a description that says a 2 to 4 player space themed tile placement deck building.
So I haven't got to choose that. I can go and pick.
Absolutely.
As long as there's capacity somewhere else.
As long as there's capacity. Because what happens is later on, because they start with number 1 and go through, if you have number 86, by the time your number is drawn, the game you were thinking about. Yeah.
I've got the space game, yeah.
So Katie and I get in and we look at the description tickets on the table, and we're like, well, that looks really cool. So we try to think of 3 that look interesting. In case our first choice gets capacity, we at least will have 1. And we've play tested some very interesting games, and they're all in very different status of design. We played games we played Time Lancers.
I think you mentioned that game before.
Yeah.
Last year before. I remember you mentioned Time Lancers.
We play tested it last year, but Katie play tested it the year before. So she play tested it last year or the year before in 2022. She play tested it. It went to Kickstarter. It failed to fulfill. It didn't fully pledge. So then they went back to the drawing board. So in 23, last year, they were back at the first exposure. We both play tested it. It went back to Kickstarter. It fulfilled. It broke stretch goals. It did really well. And I think it's scheduled to deliver in fourth quarter of this year, I think. So that's a good example of a game that's already it's because it was when I experienced it, it had been the Kickstarter, didn't launch.
So it was more finished than not finished.
Absolutely.
And how often the games, how developed are the games that generally that you're playtesting? More than a sheet of paper?
Yes. Yeah.
So they're generally towards the back end of their
I would
development
say
phase.
The game that I played that was the earliest in design, the closest to a sheet of paper. I wish I could remember the name of it. I just remember the experience. It was because it was so early in development. I think the title, he had like a placeholder for the title, but it was like
Boardgame.
It was it was an area control, worker placement, there was a little bit of fighting strategy involved in it, but all the components that we used. So we had like red wooden meeples from another game, and we had we had little tanks from a different game, and so that it was very mix and match component wise. Eventually they would finalize it. The tiles were hexes, and they were like cardboard, and they were like not dry erase marker, but permanent markers to indicate the different terrain. So that was the closest to really early production.
And how receptive are people to feedback? Because I think when I've done playtesting before, I've given ideas, and people they just dismiss them as, well, no, this is how the game plays, and weren't that receptive to any, not critical as in rude feedback, but just observations about the design. And because it was their baby, they didn't seem receptive to any change. Is that similar in Gen Con, or? Or do you feedback with a scoring system? Is there a form you fill in? Or is it just dialogue over the table?
It's dialogue, and the designers have their own little forms that they'll ask us to fill out. Yeah. It's not official. So the First Exposure Playtest Hall has its own reputation. And so I don't think they would let a designer, well, that's not true. It's happened once or twice. They've slipped through the tracks. But what you just described doesn't happen very often because First Exposure has a reputation to maintain.
Yeah.
However, that doesn't mean I haven't met some of the people that, some designers you're talking about. I mean, we're all humans, and I get that, and egos get in the way, and we get attached to our concepts, and that's fine. But if you're a game designer, you have to be open to people not trashing your game, but trying to, what's the phrase? Trying to break your game.
Yeah.
And you have to be open to that.
What's your favorite playtesting experience? Have you a favorite moment or anything you've tested and then seen come through to being final and say I was part of that?
So that's two questions. Or
you can answer them separately.
I have two different answers to that. So the first one is my favorite experience, favorite game that has not come to fruition. It's by Tunnel Monster Studios, who this week, Adam, reached out to me and asked me if I was going to be at Gen Con this year because he's got a new game that he's playtesting. So hopefully we're going to get together with him on Sunday night. I
PJ,
know.
Playtester.
Listen, this is humbling. People know who I am. That's kind of it's so weird, right? It's just I don't know. Anyway, okay. So Adam reached out to me and I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm gonna be here. He's like, all right, cool. He's got a new game, and but anyway, last year we playtested his game called Chef's Table.
I remember you mentioned this.
Yeah, it's like a cooperative. You roll dice and then you place them. You're in the back of the house in the kitchen trying to fulfill orders. It was just really cool. Yeah. It was a really cool game. But I haven't heard anything from Adam. Have not seen any momentum on that. I feel like that game was pretty close. It was really close, right? And I'm going to talk to Adam about it. It's like, what happened to Chef's
Interesting to see what's happened, because some games just get shelved, don't they? Either something else appears because it's like something else that's been released and somebody else got there first, or you get a bit of a blocker, or you can't find somebody to publish if you're not going to go down the Kickstarter route.
It's interesting you brought that up. Our friend Tate Wu had a similar situation with his game In the Stars, right?
That game always intrigued me as well, because I remember you talking about it, and I mean, it sounded like was it a roll and write? It was you were doing.
It was a roll and write. Yeah, it was a roll and write where you were drawing constellations or something.
That's it. Yeah.
I don't remember the whole story, but he said he had to shelve that game. Maybe so it's in development. So that happens, right? So games are in different forms of development and they come out. And I
think one of the games I guess I worked on, that I was most involved with was Bantam West. So through lockdown,
I remember you talking about that game.
But that was all done on Tabletopia. And other people use, is it TTS, Tabletop Simulator?
Yep.
But all of that was done on Tabletopia. And it was like playing the finished game. It's every couple of weeks when we went back to play tests or just play the game. And there was so much more contact. Ike, who's the designer, just constantly tuned. Yep. And we'd give so much feedback and he'd absorb it and he'd take it away, come back, and it's like, all this has changed. And you're like, okay, maybe less is more.
Sometimes.
So it was always a good experience. And I remember, I guess we did rulebook reading and we did quite a lot of edits on the rulebook to try and help. Because it's a sandbox kind of game. So the fact that you could do anything made for interesting playtests, because somebody could go off and just do their own stuff. But it generally ended up that we were running around the Wild West, shooting each other with a shotgun, making incredible stories. But that's probably one the game I've probably play tested and seen come through the most. Which I think, other games we've been involved with. There's a game called Evolution, which actually there's a newer version called Nature coming out, which you'll hear more about in about a month's time. But they had an expansion that we play tested quite a bit. Thinking about it now, which was about climate change. It was the climate part of the game. So that one we play tested, and that was kind of, you printed it out yourself, and obviously you did your own thing. So I think listening to you, I think it's probably my mindset has to change. And maybe when I'm at the Games Expo, because time is so tight, I don't necessarily go and invest my time there. And actually, I should do more. I think I could have more fun.
I think when you come to the US and eventually make it to Gen Con, we should do that together.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
We should sign up for a play test together and play test the same game and see how different.
There's a whole episode and a half.
Absolutely. I want to answer the second part of your question.
Oh, yeah, what did they ask?
Well, so you asked about, I forgot, we'd have to check the tape. So a game that I tested and was part of that, and that would be, hands down, our friend Heather Dixon and Apostocracy.
Okay, yeah.
So I play tested that by myself at Gen Con in the first exposure playtest hall back in 2021 or 22. Okay. I was doing that while Katie was doing Time Lancers. Then at Geekway 22, I don't know. These years just blur together. I know. Katie and I get to play Apostocracy with Heather at Geekway in St. Louis. And then Heather brought Apostocracy to Cajun Con in England back in April. So several people 24. Got to play it. 24 this year. And then she just killed it. She killed it on Kickstarter.
Smashed it.
Did she? I think she broke 2,000 backers, and
I think so.
She did.
Yeah,
really,
it's a really good story because both the art is lovely. I didn't get to play it when we were together, but I watched a few people play sessions, and the components, and you can see how it all comes together over a couple of years. How different was it to when you played it most recently to when you first saw it in let's say 22?
Huge
in terms of design, artwork, both.
Yes. The core of the game didn't change, but she clearly listened to feedback.
Yeah,
and the game got tighter and better. So that's exciting. The game went really well. Are you
playtesting Gen Con? You haven't got much time this year, have you? Are you there for a day?
No, we're not. We haven't signed up for anything. The other thing too is you don't have to sign up. You can show up.
You can just rock up. Yeah.
But when you do that, you get last choice in whatever's left over for capacity, right? Here's the interesting thing about that 8 a.m. slot on Sunday morning. Everybody's asleep from Saturday night, so they're looking.
It does seem like a very good use of time, like you say, on the opening day, rocking up, doing 2 hours before. You've kind of got your fix of board gaming ahead of everyone else. Yeah. Why queue when you could help somebody,
right?
Develop their game. Much better use of time.
The cool thing is if you end up with free time, if you're at Gen Con, and this is to anyone, if you're at Gen Con and you've got yourself a 2-hour block where you have nothing to do, go check out First Exposure Playtest Hall. Because there's sometimes where they're standing out in the concourse trying to get people to come in because they have more designers than players. That happens sometimes too. I don't think the other way around where they have more players than designers. I don't know that happens, but maybe it does. I don't think that it does. I got 2 prototypes sitting right here.
That's my next question. I'm about to say, are you doing any testing or prototyping at the moment? What have you got on the Cajun Gamer testing table?
It's the Meeple to Meeple. testing
Oh, the
table.
Meeple to Meeple testing team.
Mm-hmm. What I need to do,
I can't even say it.
I need to get a new felt mat for my gaming table and make it like white with like the purple and the blue meeple with the number 2 on it right in the center.
A few tones.
We should do that. That'd be cool. So if you remember, I can't say much about it right now because I haven't played it yet, but I have a prototype of Raise the Realm Estate.
Now, that game looked really cool. Mm-hmm. I think you mentioned it on your.
It was the Origins. It was the
Origins.
Recap.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
It was a game that we just kind of stumbled upon. I mean, it's got a 3-dimensional castle that you have to build.
Medieval theme, I seem to remember.
Yeah.
And I think I did a bit of a Boardgame Geek look up and went, this is my kind of game.
It's by Grod Games. The only thing I can do is I can read to you the little intro that came with the game. Welcome to Estate, Raise the Realm. A great war has ended with a truce drawn by sword and steel. Oh my God, I love this. Whether the victors of glory or the nobles caught in defeat, the great houses that remain must rebuild. Great uncertainty remains as to what the passage of time will bring. Prosperity or more conflict. In the end, that result will be up to the decisions of each house and the decisions of their ruler. And you take on the role of one of those houses. How cool is that?
How cool is that? And I think I found a new feature, which is like, those film trailers when there's a guy goes, and then the man, we have PJ reading from a rulebook intro, and people have to guess the game that you're talking about. That little section.
Yeah. I like that.
Or that little heading out of Boardgame Geek, the first bit, that little saying, and then people, but it's got to be in that husky PJ voice.
Oh,
there was a time at the dawn of time, kind of thing. There was a night. Oh, I've knocked my books over.
Don't do that.
I banged on the table with my dawn of time.
See?
It did sound really good. And what the mechanics? Do you know much?
I haven't dived into it too much.
You need to get this game on the table and play tested or played.
You know what? I'm excited because I get to play purple. And there's blue. So
purple and blue.
We got purple and blue, so that's cool.
How many players is it? 4.
4. Yeah, 2 to 4. 2 to 4 players. 2 to 4. I have a 2-player game.
Good. I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
You have a 2-player game. What's that game? And can you read through the rulebook again? Because I think our listeners have enjoyed your. Has that got a little intro section?
It a little bit.
Please. Yeah, just do that with them.
It's not as cool. I don't think it's a thematic intro.
But you're going to make it cool.
Oh yeah, I'm totally going to make it cool. So first of all, this is Echoes of Emperors.
Now this is on Kickstarter
right now.
Right now,
this is by
Echoes of
Emperors.
Echoes of Emperors
by Volkaban Studio.
I love it.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you some stats after I read this real quick. Let's see. What does it say in the opening? Echoes of Emperors, a strategic card game focused on 1 versus 1 gameplay. Take on the role of a medieval ruler and learn about the stories of our ancestors by building your empire and defeating your enemies. Echoes of Emperors is a deck-building board game with chess-like mechanics where you use the strengths of your civilizations to your own advantage.
Does it? I mean, A, well-read. B, looks cool.
Yeah, it seems interesting. So it's a 2-player game. It's built. Is that the right word? I got built. It's built and researched by historians and anthropologists. So it's informed by history. There's 4 starting factions: the Scots, the Norsemen, the Byzantines, and the Mongol Empire. It is my understanding that they've broken a few stretch goals and have released 2 or 4 more factions, I believe. So here's a few stats because I know Gareth loves him some stats.
I love stats.
Currently, as of this morning, 747 backers, There's 10 days to go. That's going to be 8 days to go as the time that you're listening to this, because we always record a few days in advance. And it is a faction control game over a battle map. I can tell you, but judging by the prototype, that the battle map changes. There are these 2x4 grids.
Ooh.
And they change, so it's never the same. And they're not double-sided, so, but there's a lot of them. And so you build the battle map in front of you. Again, I don't know much more about it, but I want to thank Neil from Volcabon Studios for sending me a prototype to give it a try. He was really excited. So I reached out to him a week before the project launched. And I was like, we're really interested in getting you on the show. We want to talk about it and everything. Of course, it's active now. We haven't, but the timing hasn't worked. But when I told him that both my wife and I have, we've studied history.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm going to send you a copy. I want you guys to play it and just tell me what you think. So we'll try to get him on. But by the time that happens, the game will probably be fulfilled. So
10 days to go from today.
10 days to go from today. 8 from the time you're listening.
Oh, yeah, 8 from the time you're listening to this. Good point. I'm intrigued.
Yeah. So I got 2 prototypes sitting on my table, ready to rock. I'm excited about them both for different reasons. See, that's the other thing too about playtesting.
Both of them, I'm also intrigued. So you need to feedback your playtesting learnings.
You got a vacation coming up. Why don't you let the family go to Greece and you come hang out with me for a week?
I could just hang out here. Yeah, I quite like Greece. I could go and do some ancient Greek games with me thematically.
Yeah. But you're not, because you're going to be too busy looking at all the cool stuff.
Sirens. Was it Sirens? Was that Greek? Or was that Roman? Was that Greek?
Sirens is
Greek. Oh, good. That'll get in the bag then. That'd be perfect.
That would be perfect.
I've just resurrected one of our features, and I was asking AI what are the top 3 tips for people who want to play test, as in designers.
Okay.
And then I asked it, what were the top 3 tips for somebody who is a play tester? Would you like to know what those are?
Yeah, let's see what AI has to say.
So let's start with the. So if I'm a play tester, these are 3 things that the AI thinks I should do. It said be observant and detailed.
Yes.
Pay close attention to every aspect of the game, from rules to mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
The more detailed your observations, the more useful your feedback. That's number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, be honest and constructive.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it means pointing out flaws or aspects of the game you didn't enjoy. Constructive criticism is essential for improvement. And then number 3, consider different perspectives.
Yes.
Try to put yourself in the shoes of different types of players. I think this is the bit that I'd be missing, including those with varying levels of experience. Think about how the game would appeal to the broad audience. Consider different play styles.
Mm-hmm.
They're good tips. And if you are if you're wanting to test a game, so for those designers out there, number 1, gather a set of diverse play testers. You don't want just beginners. You want beginners, experts, and in between. Have clear objectives and feedback collection, which you've covered.
Yep.
And iterative testing and refinement. Conduct multiple rounds of testing between sessions and analyze and play tests and refine and polish the game. I was trying to paraphrase a massive sentence.
Right.
Yeah. So there we go. There's our top tips by AI.
That.
Yeah.
So I was listening to you and I found my notes from my first playtest. So here's something interesting. Apostocracy, that was August 4th, 2022.
Okay.
And I have my notes from my first play of that. I played a game called Holy Roller. I completely forgot about this. This was interesting because it's set in Roman Catholic mythology, where you are, I think you play the role of different saints trying to hold back Satan from breaking the seals, kind of like in the Book of Revelation or something. That's what I kind of remember vaguely, but it was a cooperative game. And then I played a game called War of the Woods. which
War.
War of the Woods, I thought it was going to be released because, like, the prototype quality, the games, the rules, it looked like it was close to,
No,
being
can't
developed.
find that one.
No, it's been shelved, I guess. Oh, and
Holy
of course,
Rollers I found. You can do a print and play if you really want to try a game.
You can.
Yeah.
How about Outrun the Bear, our friend Sam?
Oh, Outrun the Bear.
And remember,
There's one. Yeah.
Katie and I, our name is in the rule book on the front page as a playtester. How cool is
Bosh.
that?
There's one you've seen right through to the end.
Yep. Time Lancers. Emissary.
I love the fact you have a little rulebook. I like you have a little book of your PJ's memoirs of board game testing.
And I always write them down. I write my notes down. But then they give me a form to fill out. So I'm like, oh, well, I just copy them. So on August 4th, 2023, I played this game called Emissary. I said automobiles with a question mark. There was movement and exploration. Too much narrative, not enough mechanical thought.
Man, I mean, the top AI tips did not say bring a notebook and write notes as you go.
No, it did not. It did not.
You are a pro. You got a little black pencil as well.
I mean, I have a pencil. I'm an archivist. Yeah. I have to have a pencil.
Yeah. This is why the two things blend so well together.
They really do.
Yeah, you're diligent in your note taking, and wow.
So, who doesn't love a playtest and a preview? I really wish you could come to Gen Con because I would love to playtest with you.
That would be really good. Or you need to come to the UK Games Expo and then do the playtest zones then.
Speaking of playtesting, you have a game on your shelf.
Do I?
Yeah. It's called Fate of Venterra. It's a prototype.
We need to play that game.
You need to play. I've already played it.
I've actually moved it recently to top of the pile because it's not been played.
Because you need to play it. I've already played it a couple times because we're going to get Zach from Corrosive Games on the show. He's about to launch on Kickstarter soon.
So when it is, we need to get that done. Right, that's on my mission before we go on break.
Yes.
Before we go on summer break.
Yeah. So think about playtesting. It's a lot of fun. Help make games better. Help designers
succeed
see their visions. Yeah. And it's just cool. It's just cool.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
I'll be interested to hear anyone else who's got playtesting comments. Please do write them in the comments on whichever podcast you're listening to, or just drop us a DM on Instagram.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And if you want any playtesting done, obviously me and PJ in particular, is a pro.
I don't know about
or if you want a board game intro to your Kickstarter campaign, read in a husky voice, PJ's up for hire.
I am ready to read an introduction to your game today.
We definitely should choose a little on Board Game Geek when it's just got like the name of the game with a very small strap line. Mm-hmm. That should be a little game we play.
You need to take one of the things I read, the samples, audio samples, and post it on Instagram when this goes live.
I chop that out.
I like when podcasts do that, and I wish we did more of that.
We can do that one. That's a much better idea. Right. So thank you everyone for listening. Thanks PJ for sharing and talking about playtesting. It's been educational, which like it should be.
I love it. I love it.
Okay. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll speak to you soon.
Thanks everyone for listening. Please subscribe, and as always, we love to hear your thoughts and ideas. So make sure to leave those in the comments. And don't forget, you can also chat with us both on Instagram at Meeple to Meeple.